Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to the modding of Isaac with Lyte. Today, we're going to work with beggars, because we've got custom pickups, we have ways of generating them, now we need a way to spend them. So let's head on straight into the game, see what we can get going. So we had Judas last time, let's use Judas again. Don't have a whole lot of rocks, but we might as well summon ourselves a rock beggar just to see whether or not we can get a payout. So 600.0 stone beggar. Looks like the little dwarf from Stardew Valley, just without his fancy hat. He needs rocks to pay for his hat. Let's see if we can get a payout with 2 rocks. A 1, a 2. No payout. Let's, force his hand a little. Show us that payout. Well, at least he gave us 2 cents. So let's see if the stick beggar is going to be any more cooperative. Hey! Stick beggar decided to give us magic mush and a half heart. How generous of you, stick beggar. So there are still a couple of flaws that I haven't gotten completely worked out yet. For example, you saw a spider just killed itself on my beggar. Could be a bug, could be a feature. But for the moment, they're not perfect. But what I'm going to show you is effective for making a lot of the beggar mechanics. And we can just fine-tune the little details a little bit later. Because I don't know all of the ways that bums work. I don't know the details of, well, if you fire at one... Well, let's do a little bit of science here. Spawn beggar 6.4. So we have a regular beggar. Do your shots go through them? They certainly do. So we're going to need to modify our current beggars because our stick beggar will block your shots. I got the blowing up mechanics. I got the pushing them mechanic. And the giving them stuff and making them animate and have them give you things. And when they do the total payout, having them disappear. Oh, I'm out of money. Then, what about... Wait, what? Does wait, what blow up beggars? It does. Like it's supposed to. Blows up mine as well. So there are a couple of little details that, due to the way I have them implemented, they don't work exactly right. Now, I'll tell you right now, my beggars are Entity 600 instead of Entity 6, because Entity 6 is a slot machine, and beggars are a variant of the slot machine. My trouble with using a variant of the slot machine is they make the slot machine sound when you touch them. And I don't know yet how to override that sound. Or override that touch mechanic, or hook into that touch mechanic. If you know, feel free to enlighten us. And programming isn't about getting the best answer, it's about getting your answer, such that you understand it and it works, and then listening to people when they have something that works even better. So let's head over to the code and see my solution, which again, we've seen is not exactly perfect. So, for the initial implementation, we don't need a whole lot. In content, you have entities2.xml, and we've included not just our sticks and stones, but our stick and stone beggars. The file name doesn't much matter, but you do need an animation for them. Their ID does matter, because they will act like the ID that you give them. So if you give them something that exists, like ID 6, they will have some of the functionality of the existing beggars and slots. But until we can hook into those, it's probably best to leave them be. I set their base HP to be 1, such that they're not invincible, because you have to be able to blow them up. Now, the problem with that is well, the spiders still try to kill them and suicide on them. So we might need to modify the way we make them invincible, but not. So, for example, detecting things that are trying to do damage to them, seeing if they're trying to explode. That's a much bigger list than the simple way I have of them exploding right now. But again, we'll see. Because it might be that there's a way of changing their collision, and it'll work out just fine. But then again, you as a player still need to collide with them. But that's entities too. A lot of this is just the same as the regular old beggar, just copy it and paste it. We have variant 0 and variant 1. Good? Good. So if we head back here, we open up the animation editor, and we get our friendly little wood beggar here. I'm showing you this to show that these animations are exactly the same as from the ordinary beggars. I just swapped out the sprite sheet to be my adorable little beaver friend. And under prize, we have an event called prize where they actually drop the item. Look. That's important because we're going to implement this beggar just like we did an enemy. It has various states that are based on various animations. And you can time certain events based on these events. So let's head over into the code, see how it all works. A lot of this code is spillover from the sticks and stones that we looked at twice now. Once for implementing the pickups, and then once for how they come into existence. Now we're going to look at some of the extra stuff that was there last time. For example, beggar state. We have an enumeration of the various states that the beggar can be in. Idle is them just sitting there. Pay nothing is when you give them some money, wood, stone, whatever, and they give you nothing in return. They just take it, boop, nothing happens. Pay prize is when they're like, oh, I think I'll give you something. They're not ready to give it to you yet. They start the shake, but don't really shake. Prize is when they do the actual shake and give you the actual thing. And then teleport is when they gave you a collectible and they're hitting the road. Now, you'll notice I went 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, because like with the enemies, there's an issue with state number 1. So we skip over it, and they work great. So that's beggar state. That's all you need to know about it. It's an enumeration like anything else. Now, we have this onBeggar function. I just collapsed it such that you can see where I add the callback. It's an MC NPC update callback like we did for enemies to onBeggar, and it only triggers on our beggar entity. So this is 600 right here. Sans.entity beggar is 600. It's just what I defined it to be. And so we've got this fancy little callback that calls this big old function every time we want to know anything about a beggar. You'll notice it jumps from 193 to 381. Well, 382. That's how long this function is. And most of it is just the reward code. So let's take a quick look. On beggar, we get sent the entity. So which beggar is it that we're working with? We take that entity and we turn it into an NPC. Just to be absolutely certain that it is an NPC that we're getting. It should be. Had a little bit of issues with it actually being one. So the worst case scenario, you get an NPC, you turn it into an NPC, it's still an NPC. Best case, they sent you something weird and it's just an entity and you turned it into an NPC. Next up, data is get entity, or entity get data. So our custom table of information. We always need this for something or other. This time, we particularly need it for keeping track of the beggar's position. So what we do is if we don't see that it has a position yet, we tell it where it's supposed to be. And that's where it's going to stay forever. Thus, the next line, entity.velocity, is data.position minus entity.position. This code makes it such that when you push them, they snap back to where they were. But they still get that little nudge when you push them. So they act like beggars act. This is how they're rooted to the spot, but not like a rock, more like a beggar. Okay, then we grab the player, because these bums are only going to interact with player 0. Now that's another problem, because they should be able to interact with player 1 as well. So if you want to modify this such that your beggar interacts with the second local player, you just put in a loop. You loop 0 and then 1. And you'll get players 0 and 1, and you should be good to go. Again, I haven't tested it, so I'm not absolutely certain it isn't player 0 and 2. Play around with it yourself. You might find something interesting. Then we grab the sprite. Entity get sprite. We've done this a lot of times. This is just such that we can play animations. Now, we go into the state-based logic. So say entity.state is beggar state idle. That's state 0. Okay. What do we do when the bum is idle? Okay, so you check if the frame is 0. So if we just became idle, we play the idle animation. Sprite, play idle, force it. So if we just entered the state of being idle, we idle. Okay. Then we determine if our bum is touching a player, because we don't want to do collision detection any other time. If they're doing their little shaky dance thing, we don't want them taking more cash. So we only do it while they're idle. Then we use my standard collision detection code. Entity.position minus player.position, the length of that vector, being less than or equal to entity.size plus player.size. So you take the size of the two things, put it next to each other, and then you take the distance between them and you compare them. If the distance is less than their size, they are touching. Then, if the entity.variant is 0, so stone bum, and the player has more than 0 stones, because they're not going to react if you ain't got no money, then you play the scamper sound. Full volume, full, regular old pitch, nothing weird about it. 1 0 false 1, just standard play the sound. And that scamper sound is that you get when you hand a bum some money. Then you take the stones, decrement them by 1, because you just gave this beggar a stone. Then we roll a die. We're using get drop RNG because we kind of want it to be seeded. And then we check sans.stone chance. I didn't show you that. It's up here. It's another part of our enumerations. We have stone chance, which is the chance of paying out anything. Stone payout is the chance of paying out a collectible. Stick chance, stick payout. So here we are. If you succeed at the roll to get anything, then you change the beggar state to pay prize. If you didn't win, pays nothing. Regardless of what happened, the state frame is now -1. We'll get back to why it's -1, but you're resetting the state frame because you're moving to a new state. Because if you get to this point, you're going to a different state. Whether it's pay prize or pay nothing, you will change. Same is true for variant 1, but this is the stick beggar. So instead of spending rocks, you spend sticks. You can have as many beggars as you want, taking as many different things as you want. Heck, you could make a rainbow beggar that has a different thing they want to take every time. They might take money, might take bombs, might take keys. Oh, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? But once again, play the sound, take a stick, roll a die. Did they win? Did they not? Start up a new frame, or start up a new state. So that's idle. That's just if they're sitting around waiting. Then we move on to pay nothing. You gave them something, and they're like, pfft. So if it's the beginning of this state, you play the pay nothing animation. If we are done playing pay nothing, then you switch back to being idle, and you set the state frame back to -1. Super easy. You play the animation, when you're done, you go back. Brilliant. What if you did actually win something? You gave them a stick or a stone, they're like, you deserve something. So they go to pay prize, frame 0, you play the animation. When it's done with that animation, you move on to the next state. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because this doesn't have anything interesting. Nothing happens during pay prize. It just does this little animation. Then you move on to the prize animation and start the state anew. Once you're in prize, something interesting happens. Because on frame 0, sure, you just play the animation again. But when the sprite has is event triggered prize, then you do things, because at that instant, it's time to give them their reward. So again, you roll a die. If they are, in fact, a stone beggar, then some interesting things happen. Now, I talked about a configuration variable at the top earlier. I changed my mind halfway through, and I didn't actually use it, because everything turned out to be more complicated than I originally planned. So that payout variable, I went a little crazy and put in lots of different payouts, so that one doesn't actually come into play. But for our stone beggar, we roll a die. We are paying out, regardless if it's a collectible or not. On a roll of less than 8, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then you get small rock. On a roll from 8 to 15, you get Spelunker Hat. On a roll from 16 to 23, you get Notched Axe. Well, it's a stone beggar. You get Notched Axe, you get more stones, you run into another stone beggar, you're flush with cash. It's nice to give some of these items more reason for existing, eh? So, 24 to 35, you get a die. 36 to 61, you get a nickel. 62, actually. This one has the equal sign. And then 63 or higher, you get a penny. So the stone beggar tends to give you money or something rock-themed. So that's all from just this one roll. We make various decisions about whether or not we give them interesting things. If they get a collectible, we also set getData.payout to be true, because the beggar paid out. They need to teleport away now. If they give you a coin, they'll stick around, try to get some more rocks out of you. Then, for the stick beggar, we do the same thing, just for variant equals 1. If it's less than 8, you get stigmata, chunks of wood that go in your hands. Less than 16, you get magic mush. Less than 24, you get the ladder, made of wood. And the magic mushroom, forest creature, can talk and take money from you. There are shrooms involved. Less than 36, you get an eternal heart. Less than 62, you get a soul heart. Otherwise, you get a half heart, like we saw in the actual footage. Again, with the collectibles, payout is true, such that they teleport away. When they get something else, yeah, you'll stick around. So that's all sorts of things that happen if the event of prize is triggered. So if it's 0, you play the animation. If it's triggered, you do this roll and summon the things. Then, a couple frames later, it's finished doing the prize. When it's done, you ask, was it a payout? So if it was a payout, then you set the state to teleport. Poof, they go away. And you play the sound of them dropping the collectible. Chunk. If they didn't get a collectible, this else, then you go back to being idle. You get to stick around, get some more stuff. And as always, set the state frame to -1. Because we always have to go back to the beginning of a state whenever we change state. Whether it's to idle or teleport, anything, have to go back. Then, if our beggar is in the teleport state, and they're at frame 0, you play teleport. As always, once they are done teleporting, you remove them from existence. Gone. And then at the very end, a lovely bit of code saying, take the current state frame and increase it by 1. So when you set it to -1, the next time you come in, it is 0, just like we check at the beginning of each of these states. So that was a lot of states, but it's still the same as when working with an enemy. You set up the states, you say what to do while in that state, and how to transition into the others. There's nothing random about the transitions, really. I mean, there's a little bit of randomness about whether or not they get a collectible, but if they get a collectible, it teleports away. If they don't get a collectible, it sticks around. So you go through all the states, you make them animate the way they should, you transition at the ends of the animations, you're good to go. The only thing we're really missing is how to make them react properly to bombs, really. And, I suppose, not react to tears. And that's why we have this last little bit here that I'm not 100% on. I don't really love it. But for the moment, it's okay. So what we have is an entity take damage callback for both of our beggars, because they're both entity beggar, they're just different variants. And so it calls mod beggar damage right up here. Sends in 5 things. You always need to remember, these damage callbacks take 5 things. What's taking the damage, how much, what type, who did it, and then the countdown of how long until damage can happen again. So what I'm doing here is checking if the type of damage is at least partly an explosion. So these damage flags are binary flags. You can add them all up and have all of the damage types all at once. So you can't just check if the flag is exactly equal to explosion, because it might not be. It might be explosion and something else. So what we use is this bitwise AND. So flag and damage explosion will be damage explosion if and only if there is a damage explosion involved in the flag. I know that was a needlessly pedantic way of saying it, but basically you use this, check if it's greater than 0. Or you could check if it's equal to this. It doesn't much matter because this is a single bit. A bit and something will be that bit, or it will be 0. So if it does explode, your beggar's dead. Goodbye. If it's dead, then you spawn yourself some coins. Between 1 and 5. Isaac spawn, pick up, coin, penny, where the thing blew up, slight little random shift vector, and nothing spawned. So you do a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, however many times it says to do it, and then you return 1. Remember, the bum had 1 hit point. So no matter how much damage is dealt by this explosion, they take 1 and they die. If it's not an explosion, they're immune. They take no damage. Return false. Immortal. You cannot kill them. Unfortunately, that means the tears hit them. It means spiders hit them and suicide. So this is not great. But for the moment, it works. It's probably also currently possible to poison them. Like, they'll look poisoned, but they won't take any damage. So if any of you have a really clever solution to all of these damage-related and phasing type problems, please let me know. The biggest trouble I'm coming across is if you change the collision type, then you can't run into them. But if you don't, all these other things hit them too. It's a weird conundrum, eh? So we'll look into this more in the future. What I really wanted to show was this top part where you pay them things, because they're not the only things that could use this code. You might make a leprechaun enemy that runs up and steals your money. Would work more or less the same way. So eventually we'll fine-tune this, we'll make it work really the way it's supposed to. But that's all I've got for this episode. I will see you in the next episode of The Modding of Isaac with Lyte.